The following program is a paid commercial which has been paid for by the advertiser, whose products and/or services are featured in this program.
I'm feeling the good vibes, good vibes.
Hey, Marvelous Melissa, we're back.
Hello, Super Cheryl. We are back.
Guess who didn't escape?
Woo!
Just
yes.
saying.
Yes. Miss A.T. Annabelle Benavid.
Maybe
I
the
love
shackles had something to do with it.
No, she's lying. That's
Kind
not
of
what's
pulling
going
them
on
on the
here.
side. Hey, you gotta stay.
No, I'm just kidding.
I think she likes us.
Natural. Yes. No.
Perfect. So, we wanted to start this episode off and talk about your passion, which we're very excited about. It happens to be near and dear to our hearts for different reasons, which we'll dive into as well. But I want to ask a little bit about yourself. What was your previous life before coming to Region 19, the Education Service Center, and then a little bit of what brought you there. So maybe if you could take us on that journey.
Okay, so I have to go way, way back.
Sounds good.
Because I've been doing this for 30 years. And so I decided I would become a bilingual teacher because I, at one time, had a great ESL teacher. And so, it's about giving back, right? But at the same time, I also had some teachers who were not so good. And so, again, giving back, right? And so, my passion, I think, is because of both. I had good experiences and bad experiences. And always at the forefront have been those bilingual kiddos. And so I have been a dual language teacher. I started out in Las Cruces, New Mexico. And I did the 90-10 back then. And I've done the 50-50. I did some ESL during the summer schools.
Time out, Annabelle. What's 90-10 and 50-50? I was like, is that salary? 90% was here. Sorry.
No, that's a very good question. So there are different dual language program models.
Oh, okay.
And so most of the models here are 50-50, meaning 50% of the time is spent in one language and then the other 50% in the other.
Okay.
And around here is English and Spanish, right?
Okay.
And in Las Cruces, I had a 90-10, which was 90% in Spanish and then 10% in English. And then in second grade, 80% and 20, right? Like that until you get to the 50-50. And so there's advantages to both the 90-10 and the 50-50. But ultimately, they are both the best programs to implement for our kiddos. Better than ESL, because research has shown that for decades and decades and decades.
And ESL is total immersion. Is that what it is?
ESL is just that, English as a second language. And if you look it up on the Texas Education Agency, Chapter 89, it will tell you the goal is to learn English.
Exactly.
You learn English. English. So a lot of kiddos by second, third grade, they have lost their Spanish. And that's where you have the no sabo kids.
Right.
No sabo. They can't speak to their grandparents.
Right.
They can't even speak to their parents sometimes because we've taken that away from them.
And that was me. I was a no sabo kid.
You're a no sabo
No
kid?
sabo kid.
Yeah.
Yes. So,
because the ESL, and not only the ESL, but society tells you.
Yes.
Right.
Society tells you that English is,
Yeah.
accepted, respected, and nothing else is good enough. I remember my daughter when she was a little toddler, and I was speaking to her in Spanish, and the lady at the candy store told me, "This is United States. You should speak English."
Yeah.
So that thinking still
Exists.
Yes. It still does. I've heard many adults say that, even in the school setting, they say that. And so that's where my passion comes from. That, language is who we are.
Right.
You take that away from us and you are cutting our roots.
Right.
Then growing up, I grew up in Juarez, and my mom was very, very involved in school. And then we moved to this country and she no longer feels welcome.
Wow.
So as a school principal, I vowed that was not going to be me. And so, my marquee on the south side was in Spanish. And I remember the custodian telling me, I'm so glad that you have it in Spanish because, your predecessor would post it in English and like, well, who can read it?
Exactly.
What parents can read it? And so it's about being intentional in everything. When I would send letters home to parents, it was always the Spanish first, English on the bottom.
Right.
Again, always elevating because society is not going to do that. So we have to be intentional about it. And I left my campus to join the service center for a couple of reasons. Number one was my health, to be quite honest. I was under a lot of stress, but I do miss the campus a lot. I miss the kids so much.
There's nothing else like spending a day with kids.
I miss them tremendously, and especially now that I'm an empty nester, I don't have kids. Not even at my house. And so I also felt that, I still have a lot to give and a lot of passion. And so I figured that the Education Service Center would allow me to spread some of my love for dual language region-wide, and that has certainly been the case. And now statewide, and sometimes even outside of the state, when we get to travel and or at least deliver PD virtually. So that's me in a nutshell.
That's
and
amazing.
Then somewhere along the way, also I developed a second passion for kiddos. Well, I don't know if it's second because they're together. Kids who are coded special ed and they're emergent bilinguals.
Oh,
yes.
I get my Nacho Libre pants on for that one.
I love it.
Because
I love it. Get in the ring.
Yeah,
we're right there. Well, that's our ring, right? That's our barrio. That's our place. And we've been trying to get the message out, Melissa and I, when we do these podcasts here at KPAX, we always try to get the message out that they're diverse learners with diverse needs and abilities, right?
Absolutely.
And then you throw in language, which is so powerful. And I know for me growing up, it was pretty powerful because my mother's Hispanic, grew up outside of El Paso, went to a school outside of El Paso, very close by, and she spoke Spanish, but the entire community was Spanish, like from her parents, and her grandparents owning the grocery store to church to, whatever they were doing, whatever she was involved in. And then went to school for the first time and they called it primer, right? Which is first grade back then. And she was actually held back for refusing to speak English. And she told, and by the way, the school district was run predominantly by people who were American, just white. Not in Spanish. They didn't reflect the students that were there. So I loved as a principal, you had your marquee because you were reflecting your community. And so she fought with them. She was 6 years old and fought with them and said, who am I going to speak English to? Like, well, who's going to understand me after this? And so they held her back. And so years later, having my brother and I, she decided, in the 70s, yes. That's how old I am, Melissa.
Good time. Hey, I was born in 79, right there. So still with cool age, yeah. So,
you did not have to wear the pants, though. So anyways.
I wish I did. I would have loved those things.
Bring them back.
Yes, bring them back.
So growing up, she decided that as we were starting our education, I spoke mostly Spanish because I was always with my great-grandmother and my family and my mother. And then she said, oh, no more Spanish. You're going to get in trouble. And so there's that negativity that's attached to it. And so I hung on to it, like I said, in my head, but I understand it. And I'm very thankful for having both somewhere in my life so that I do understand it. But I think that's super important. And it's a part of your story. And I know Melissa lost hers. And so that's always difficult.
Yes. So, a big thing for us as the Generation X child and being an early 90s child, a big emphasis was you're going to learn English and you're just going to go in with the status quo. You've got to fit in. English, that's it. And then as long as we get you understanding English, that's going to be good. You're on good ground. And Spanish is just to the side. So that's what the emphasis was of, even though I had a lot of my extended family speak Spanish. My grandmother out in Midlands spoke only Spanish until the day she passed on. And I think it just matters what city you're in, what town, and what their ways of education is as well. But that's how it was all the way until high school, even in college. But I'm just so happy that we still have a long way to go, but I'm happy that now there's a little bit more celebration than there was in the 90s.
And
Embracing. And I know people still get fearful of anything that's different, but you're seeing more of that embrace. And I'm really thankful from a culture standpoint of that being celebrated in the classroom, not hidden away, and not just with, Spanish, but with all cultures. So I really do appreciate that. And I wasn't born and raised here in El Paso. I was born and raised in San Antonio. And so it was just a different time, a different era. But like I said, I'm glad that a lot of that is starting to stop.
Yeah.
So
and I think part of that is the pressures of standardized testing.
yes. Yes.
That parents and teachers and principals like, well, they have to take the test someday in English.
Right.
Well, they do. They do. But if they have a strong enough foundation, they can do it.
Right.
They can do it without you having to teach just English, because we know what the research says. The research, by Thomas and Collier, the famous graph, it's just called the graph. It shows a big dive when kids enter the middle school years under ESL, because they can't keep up with the rigor.
Right.
They can go under the radar at the elementary school level, but then middle school, middle school and high, they can't. And so if we give our kiddos and their families the pride, then we also have to give them the voice. And that's why our conference is so important to us. Because as a parent, you can go ask questions. You can go say, hey, wait a minute, they have this program down the street. Maybe I should go down the street.
Right.
Or how come we don't have it here?
Right.
Or again, as a parent, we need to be empowered. And same with our special needs kids that we were talking about, right?
Yeah.
Often you will hear parents say, and even teachers and administrators, oh, well, special education trumps bilingual education. No, it does not. No, it does not. You look at the whole child.
Yes.
What are their needs? And if they can have their special needs met in a bilingual classroom, then do it. Because we know that they can be successful. There's only a small percentage of kiddos who need to be in a very restrictive setting, where they cannot and will not have access to a dual language education. But that's a very small percentage.
Right.
And again, the parents are the ones who can be that advocate along with the teacher. So
Exactly.
that's my passion also.
Speaking of, I am excited about the updates with the LPAC, form now. When the parent comes in and fills out the form, there's some changes to that. And there's also some updates on considering the progress for the students and the exit criteria, if you will. So now one thing I noticed is that there's like a progress on there. So I'm like, yay, it's not just you must be this, and this, and this. It kind of has a little bit of flexibility. And so I appreciated that a lot.
It does. And we'll find out more as the state releases some of this data. But yes, now we're looking at progress, not just, did they grow this much?
Right.
Given some of the limitations with COVID and access and so on.
So it sounds like that progress is going to be more individualized, which is needed.
Yes.
That's right. We're all on our own different journey, as you can see, but we're all still here to surround our diverse learners, whether it's through language or honoring their language that they're thinking. And because again, it relaxes the brain when you're able to be spoken to or understand your universe, right? In the language that comes to you the quickest. Yeah.
And for some of us, both of them come to us at the same time.
Yes.
Which is what we call translanguaging, right? When I
Yes.
can switch de un idioma para el otro just because I can.
I love that. That's the way my
You
mom
know?
speaks
Yeah.
all day long.
And a
So
lot,
cool. I love
and
it.
a lot of people frown upon that. Like,
Right.
stick to one language. I'm sticking to one language because of the setting.
Right.
But if it was a different setting,
Mm-hmm.
I can turn it off and on as natural as
Yeah.
can be.
Yeah.
And that is
That's so
actually
cool.
an asset.
Yes.
It shouldn't be
Yes.
frowned upon.
No.
So
It's helpful
cool.
for everybody around you too to pick up
Yeah.
the different words that they're starting to understand. It includes everybody
right.
when you translanguage. That's probably one of my favorites, just because I grew up in a household that's what my mom does. So
Yeah, we do that.
it's normal.
I do that
I
all my
love
life.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, again, it's just about the context. It's
Right.
the setting, right? You
Yes.
wouldn't do that anywhere.
Right.
It's because again, it's frowned upon depending on where you're at.
Right.
But
Yeah.
it's that's how flexible our brain is, our
Right.
bilingual brain, and all the cognitive benefits that the bilingual
Yes,
brain has.
yes.
I was thinking you have a really healthy brain.
I
It keeps
hope
going
so.
back.
Yeah.
Your dendrites, or what's that PD on? Yeah, get your dendrites growing. It's just a teacher
Yeah.
thing, anyhow. Yes, yours are like that nonstop.
Well, you know,
So-
there's actual research that says those of us who are bilingual, we have
Yes.
less chances of,
Getting acquiring dementia.
yep,
See, that's what I'm saying. You got the healthiest brain right now.
yeah.
I love that.
awesome.
So all of those benefits, those are the things that we're going to talk about during our conference too, to parents, to
Amazing.
teachers. We ordered some huge posters so that they're out there for everybody to understand.
Lots of resources.
All the value.
You
Mhm.
are a plethora of resources, and we would love to invite you back when we get more updates, maybe on LPAC, or dive into another part of it, because this is something we could all go, on and on with. But more importantly, our community benefits from these conversations here in El Paso. So we appreciate you.
Oh,
We thank you so much for
Thank
being with us.
you.
How
Thank
was
you.
it?
So much.
It was
You're good?
great.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. It was
Thank
good.
you.
Yes.
Thanks for joining us here at K-Boxer, our Good Vibes Only, R19 Sped Lounge. So Marvelous Melissa and Super Cheryl, thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, Annabelle. Thank
Well,
you so much.
I need an acronym
Awesome,
with mine.
Annabelle.
No.
Yeah, something Spanish.
Let's
Let's language it.
Not awesome. Awesome.
Amor de Annabelle. I will think of one.
Yeah.
We'll talk to Claudia.
You know what I like personally? Authentic, because I say it like it is. And
There
it's
you
a
go.
cognate, right?
I love
Yeah,
that. Authentic Annabelle.
Well, thanks
Much.
again for being here. Authentic.
Thank
Annabelle.
you.
Thank you. Thank you both.
The Special Education Information Center is proud to provide resources and interactive features to help bridge the partnership between schools and families. Live chat with experts as we help you understand your child's disability, your rights, and what options are available to you. Spedtext.org.
I'm feeling the good vibes, good vibes.
The preceding program was a paid commercial which has been paid for by the advertiser whose products and/or services are featured in this program.